This Kenny Pickett hand size, Tom, I mean, it's worth bringing you on just to talk about it. I mean, how controversial is this at the Senior Bowl?
Dan, I think we've got one hand-sized story every year with the quarterbacks in the NFL draft. You remember a couple of years ago, Joe Burrow at the Combine after his measurement tweeted something along the lines of, "I've decided to retire from football because the ball's going to slip out of my tiny baby hands." With Kenny Pickett, it's kind of a unique deal because, yes, I had heard the same thing. People were curious about his hand size, which is pretty standard, especially when a guy wears gloves on the field. That's always a tell that makes scouts think this guy might not have particularly big hands. What I didn't know until I sat down with Pickett first thing yesterday morning here in Mobile was he's got double-jointed thumbs. So his thumb actually kind of, if you think about pressing your thumb into the palm of your hand, that's kind of like the resting position for him. It obviously doesn't impact him throwing the football, but if you're talking about splaying out your hand and measuring it from thumb to pinky, you might get potentially shortchanged in your measurement. So he did not get his hand measured here. But his explanation was pretty simple, which is I'm gonna do some extra exercises, basically roll the thing out, which is something that quarterbacks do. As silly as it sounds, you roll out your hand to make sure that you're getting close to 9 inches, and he'll get an accurate measurement at the Combine in a month or so.
But is this a big deal for some teams?
Well, it's a consideration. I think especially for the cold weather teams, you always hear that in colder weather it can be harder to grip the football if you've got smaller hands. Everybody would love to have a Brett Favre 10.25-inch meat hook, but as long as you're on the plus side of 9 inches, generally that's going to be sufficient for teams. Now, if somebody measures in well below the line, just like any other measurable, if your height, your weight, your speed, whatever is just so far below the line, that's going to raise some questions. But again, we've seen guys with not huge hands have success in the NFL. There's guys like Baker Mayfield that are smaller quarterbacks who have huge hands. Is that saved Baker Mayfield from ever fumbling in Cleveland? No. Is it the end-all, be-all? It's one of many traits, but it's always an interesting one to hone in on at these times of year.